Hi, my name is Adrienne Smith, and I'm the owner of Power of Your Own Yoga Studio here in Santa Barbara, California. And this is going to be a short video on how to modify your practice if you are expecting a baby, if you're pregnant. Okay, so first thing I'm going to say, I've been pregnant. I've practiced the entire time I was pregnant. My doctor gave me the okay to do whatever I wanted during my pregnancy because he knew that I paid attention to my body. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to tell you what to do, what to start, what not to start. All I do know is as your body is growing and it's changing and you're feeling things differently than you've ever felt them before, you're growing a human being inside of your body, I want to remind you how capable and amazing and creative you are. You know your body better than you actually realize that you know your body, but you have to pay attention, okay? Someone said to me recently that when she took a yoga teacher training, they talked about honoring the body, and she's just like, I don't even know what that means. Like, I've never done that my whole entire life. And so honoring your body is really a practice of listening. So everybody has a different threshold for pain. Everybody has a different threshold for challenge, for flexibility, for strength, like an inner desire, and even just like the ability to feel. So if there's anything that I'll say about, starting a yoga practice when you're pregnant is not the time to start it. If you've been practicing yoga and you're, even on and off, it doesn't mean that you have to have been like super consistent. But as long as you have some sort of reference point, so you can be like, oh, I remember what that felt like before I was actually carrying a baby, it'll inform what you should do while you're doing a yoga practice with a guide, with a teacher, or if you're practicing videos at home or just doing movements on your own. So what I want to walk through with you today is just ways that you can modify your practice if you've already started one, and it doesn't even matter at what point you are in your pregnancy. So you can be early stages to 40 weeks, full term. Okay, so some doctors will tell you not to practice at certain points in your pregnancy. Again, I'm not a doctor, so I want you to have the agency to get communication clear with your doctor as to like what it is that you're supposed to be doing, what you're not supposed to be doing, and be your own guide for that. You're the one that's living in your body, okay? But assuming that all those things are good, systems are go, and you're ready, you're like, I want to practice yoga, I'm good. Doctor said yes, I feel good about that. I'm going to show you a couple things. First thing I will say is to have 2 blocks. So there's different ways that we can use the blocks, but basically what the blocks will do is they'll bring the floor up towards you. Okay, so you don't have to drop as low down onto the ground as we transition through some postures. Now, this doesn't matter. You can be practicing Baptiste yoga. You can be practicing any sort of practices. Having 2 blocks while your belly is growing will be a game changer for, even if your belly is not growing, it's a game changer for your practice. It makes it a lot easier to access more space in your body. Okay, so beginning of class, we'll put these here for now. I'm going to say put them at the top of your mat on the lowest setting. You can also bring them up to a higher setting depending on like the stability. These ones are kind of squishy, so I like them on the lowest setting. Okay, but if we start practice, we start typically in child's pose. Some practices have your knees together in child's pose. We like to say have your knees apart. It gives you more opening in your hips, inner thighs, groins, and it also gives you more space for your baby. So what that will look like is taking your knees wide on your mat, feet together, and then stretching your hands forward as you take your head down. Now, depending on how far along you are and how big the baby is, it might feel better to stay more upright. And you can even take a block and rest your forehead on the block. Okay? If it feels fine to go back and lower down, then stretch your body as low down to the ground. The key here is pay attention to what feels good, what doesn't feel good. Okay. Now, as we go through a sun salutation, this is what I would suggest so that it becomes easier on your body. You stretch up, you reach to extended mountain pose, you fold down. Now, you don't have, maybe you're early in the pregnancy, it feels fine to fold. Later on in the pregnancy, it's not going to feel as great to fold. Take your feet wider. Bend your knees, give your belly space to go down and in between your legs. Now the blocks are here so that you don't have to reach as far down to the floor. So you can put your hands on the ground, fold to here, lift up to a halfway lift. And again, if that's even too far and your hamstrings aren't that flexible, come up to the high blocks with your hands. You'll take your hands here, lift to halfway lift, you can come to fingertips, and then step back. If you're on the high setting, I would step back to your knees. If you're on the low setting, maybe you don't come onto your knees, and you can take plank pose on your knees or here, okay? Depends on you. Now, you don't need to worry about getting super toned abdominals while you're pregnant. Actually, don't worry about doing any abs while you're pregnant at all. Some people are super freaked out about, like, I don't know. Yeah, like, don't, like, let the baby have space. That's all. Like, this is about creating space for, like, this amazing being to come into the world, and good space, okay? So if you're in a high plank and you're suffering and you're mad and you're angry and it's super hard and you're on your feet, come down onto your knees. Stay on the blocks. You'd shift forward, come down into a low push-up. Plenty of space because you're higher up towards away from the ground with your belly. And then you lift to upward facing dog, okay? Might feel really good to take your knees off the mat and let your hip flexors stretch out, lift your chest, bring your chin in, pull the top of your head up, and then you press back to downward facing dog. Now again, the idea of this being to create good space, take your feet wider if that feels better. Bring them hip distance apart if that feels okay. All right, as your belly grows and we're transitioning to the top of the mat, it'll probably feel better to walk into almost like a wide lunge as you're stepping to the top, like a wide squat. Okay, typically we would walk from the back of the mat or from downward facing dog and bring our feet together. As your belly grows bigger, you're just going to get that compression. That's what you don't want. All right, other two things that I'll tell you, twists. So when we do a standard twist in class, we'll take chair pose. I'll sit this way so you can see. We'll sit back, hands together, bend forward a little bit, press your elbow into your thigh and lift up. Okay, we don't want to smush the baby. So while you're pregnant, early on it might feel fine. Later on, you're like, yeah, that doesn't feel good anymore. So instead of that, you take your block, you put your block between your foot, one block, and you come to a little squat, put your hand on the block, and then extend here. So you want to get extension in your spine, and then a lift up and rotation. Okay, so it doesn't matter how you do that. You don't have to be here in a standard chair to get all the benefits of twisting. Same thing if we were to do crescent lunge. You'd be here, you take the block, you can put it in between your foot, and then see how much space you have, like as big as your belly gets, like you can be carrying triplets, and you'll have a ton of space to open up. Other option for both twists is to stay upright more, stay in the squat, and then just rotate. So I'll show you what that looks like from the side. You sit back, reach forward, reach back. I'm still getting this amazing twist in my spine. What you're working on is the rotation in your torso. It's not, and you have all the space for your belly. Do what feels the best. So same thing would go if you were to be doing the crescent lunge twist, or actually wrong leg. You just be here. And this way is actually pretty challenging to stay, especially if you have tight muscles in your back. Okay, last part of this is getting down onto the floor. At whatever point it is for you that it does not feel good to lay on your belly, don't lay on your belly anymore. For me, I remember I was about 18 weeks. I was at a workout program doing like a swim machine, and I was like, I cannot do this anymore because my belly was growing. And then I realized, I was like, oh, I don't want to do that in yoga class either. So when we standardly get down on the mat to start to do spinal extensions, a couple options is come onto your hands and knees, and you can do cat-cows, rounding and flexing your spine. You can do bird dogs where you're reaching, and then you can take it here where you take opposite hand to foot. You can even take the same hand, same foot, works really good on balancing, and open up through the front of your body. Camel pose is great because you've got all this space. You can have your feet flat on the ground or tuck your toes under and lift up, so you got all this space. Bridge pose, also great. So the whole class is down in locust. You want to, be doing the same thing. We're working on igniting the nervous system and the spine. You come down on your back and bridge when everyone else is on their belly. and you work here. This is great. You can also do wheel. I've had the question if you can do wheel when you're pregnant. Again, listen to how your body feels, okay? You'll know if it's too much, if it's too big of a stretch for the front of your body. And I think that's it. So we covered, number 1, creating good space for your body. 2, listening to your body, okay? Using the blocks as tools to bring the floor up to you. Twisting, giving the baby space, don't smush the baby. And same thing with laying down on your belly. If you're laying down on your belly and your belly starts to not feel good, then don't do that, okay? So I hope this was helpful, and if you have any questions, or please drop it in the comments. You can also send me a message, yoga@powerofyourohm.com, and I'd be happy to help you with just getting you to feel super great while you're pregnant. And then also, the last thing I want to say is, I remember what it felt like for the things that I loved. It felt like, I can't do these things anymore, and it felt like such a long period of time. But now that I'm on the other side of it, and even like right after I had my daughter, it was like such a blip in the radar of the length of time of your life to kind of put some things on a shelf that you maybe love to do, but you can't, they just don't feel good to do anymore, and to take care of yourself and create good space. So have an amazing pregnancy and take care of yourself, create good space for you, your baby, and everybody else in your household. Thanks.